Containment field flickered as another human walked past my observation cell, and I pressed my three-fingered hand against the translucent barrier, watching him move with that peculiar human gait. He didn't look at me. None of them ever looked at me anymore. I had been aboard the UFS Resolute for 43 cycles now, the only survivor of what the humans politely called the Kelvrathi incursion, what we had called the inevitable conquest of the soft-skinned ones. The human walking past wore the same expression I had seen on every one of them since the battle ended. Not triumph, not rage, not even satisfaction. Just that terrible, patient calm that still made my secondary heart skip beats in my chest. They fed me well. They asked their questions without torture. They even provided reading materials in my own language, and somehow, that made everything worse. I could still hear the screaming, not from the humans, from us. The human who had just passed stopped, pivoted on his heel with mechanical precision, and walked back to my cell. His identification read Pierce in those blocky human letters. He held a datapad in one hand and something small in the other. "Your people are coming to collect you," he said, his voice flat and professional. "Transport arrives in 6 hours." I felt my dorsal fins flatten against my skull involuntarily. "You're releasing me?" "Treaty terms." He tapped something on the datapad. "Complete prisoner exchange within 90 standard days of armistice signing." He paused, and for the first time, his eyes met mine. They were brown, unremarkable by human standards, I had learned, but in them I saw something that made my blood run cold with its absence of heat. He extended his other hand through the field service opening. In his palm sat a small data chip. "This contains your testimony," he said. "Everything you told us about why your fleet attacked. I thought you might want it, for when you get home." Why would they give me evidence of my cooperation? The interrogation had begun 3 cycles after the battle. I had expected pain, deprivation, the standard methodologies of warfare. Instead, a human female named Rachel had entered my cell carrying 2 cups of something that steamed in the recycled air. She set one in front of me, sat down across the simple table, and said nothing for a full 5 minutes. "That's coffee," she finally said, gesturing to the cup. "We don't expect you to drink it. Your physiology can't process the caffeine, but I thought you might appreciate the gesture." I had stared at her, trying to calculate the angle. "You wish me to believe you care about my comfort?" "I wish you to understand that we make distinctions," she replied, "between soldiers and sadists, between duty and cruelty." She sipped from her own cup, maintaining eye contact in that unsettling human way. "Your fleet attacked our colony on Nexaros, 17,000 civilians. You yourself commanded the bombardment of the agricultural sector." My fins had flared defensively. "It was a military target, food production supports. It was a farm." Her voice remained level, almost gentle. "Worked by families. Children played in those fields." The weight of that statement hung between us, but she didn't raise her voice, didn't slam her fist on the table, didn't do any of the things our instructors had told us humans would do when confronted with losses. "I'm going to ask you questions," Rachel continued. "You can answer or not. You won't be harmed either way. But I think you want to understand what happened out there." She leaned forward slightly. "Because you still don't know, do you? How 37 human vessels defeated a Kelvrathi armada of 312. She was right. I didn't know. That ignorance was eating me alive. "The battle lasted 4 hours," I said slowly. "Your vessels were outnumbered 8-1. Our weapons had twice your range. Our shields triple your capacity." I met her eyes. "You should have broken within the first engagement, requested terms, fled." Rachel nodded as if I had said something merely interesting, rather than outlined the tactical impossibility of what had occurred. "Our ship sustained 73% damage. We lost 11 vessels, 4,218 killed in action." The precision of her casualty count struck me, not around 4,000, exactly 4,218, as if each death had been recorded, counted, witnessed. "Your losses were acceptable to you?" I asked, genuinely confused. "No losses are acceptable." She set down her cup with a soft click, but they were necessary. She pulled up a holographic display between us. "Your flagship, the Kelvrathi Pride, was destroyed by a single torpedo strike. Do you know why that worked?" I had wondered, had spent sleepless hours in the cell wondering. "Your commander, Warlord Dravos, made excellent tactical decisions based on his understanding of human psychology," Rachel continued. "He positioned your fleet to maximize the psychological impact of your numerical superiority. He broadcast threats designed to induce panic. He even targeted civilian population centers first, anticipating that human emotional responses would override strategic thinking." "The strategy was sound," I said quietly. for fighting humans who react the way your intelligence predicted. She zoomed in on the battle telemetry. He didn't account for humans who had already made peace with dying. A chill ran through my scales. The battle had begun with confidence bordering on boredom. I remembered standing on the bridge of the Pride, watching our scanners paint the pathetically small human fleet in red. 37 vessels. Some of them were transport ships hastily retrofitted with weapons. 3 were actually marked as hospital ships, though they had powered weapons and joined the formation. Warlord Dravos had laughed. They brought their wounded to watch them lose. Our intelligence had been thorough. Humans were emotional creatures, prone to fear responses that degraded combat effectiveness. They formed attachments to their crew that made them hesitant under fire. They valued individual lives to a degree that bordered on tactical paralysis. Multiple xenopsychology reports confirmed that sustained pressure would cause human command structures to collapse as empathy overwhelmed duty. The data was unambiguous. Humans broke. We opened fire at maximum range, our plasma lances reaching across the void to score hits on the leading human vessels. Their shields flared and buckled. 2 frigates lost power immediately, drifting as their crews evacuated. Standard procedure would have been for the humans to scatter, to use their inferior numbers, superior maneuverability to avoid our firing solutions. They accelerated toward us instead. Curious, Dravos had murmured. Perhaps desperation. But their acceleration wasn't panicked. It was calculated. Each ship moved with geometric precision, maintaining formation integrity while closing distance at velocities that had to be straining their inertial dampeners to breaking point. Our gunners kept firing. More human ships took damage. I watched a destroyer's entire starboard side peel away like skin, saw bodies and atmosphere vent into space. The destroyer maintained course and speed. "They're not evading," my sensor officer reported. Confusion colored his voice. "Reading multiple hull breaches across their fleet. Casualties mounting. They're still not evading." Dravos leaned forward in his command throne. "Target their command ship. Break their leadership. Break their spirit." We unleashed everything at the UFS Resolute, the dreadnought at the center of their formation. Our combined firepower should have cracked it like an egg. Their shields failed after the 3rd salvo. The 4th punched through armor plating. The 5th sent secondary explosions rippling across their hull. They returned fire. Not wild spray and pray desperation. Targeted, precise fire at our shield generators. Every shot counted. Every shot hit. "How are they maintaining accuracy while taking that damage?" someone asked. No one answered because we didn't know. The human fleet reached optimal weapons range, and that's when I first noticed it. The communications chatter from their ships. We had broken their encryption weeks ago, one of our intelligence coups. We had been monitoring their communications, expecting to hear panic, fear, desperate calls for reinforcement. Instead, I heard this: "Resolute actual, confirming torpedo solution on target, designated Alpha 1, probability 94%. The voice was calm, conversational, like someone ordering dinner. "Confirmed, Resolute. Aegis is 90 seconds from optimal lance range. We'll need covering fire during approach." "Copy that, Aegis. Juggernaut will screen, taking the hit." Taking the hit. Not attempting evasion, not requesting support. Taking the hit. I watched the frigate Juggernaut deliberately move into our firing solution, absorbing a plasma barrage that carved away a third of its mass. It kept firing, kept screening, bought the Aegis its 90 seconds. "They're coordinating suicide runs," our tactical officer said. "This isn't standard human doctrine." Dravos's dorsal fins were fully extended now, a sign of agitation. "All ships, focus fire on—" The Resolute's torpedo hit us. 1 torpedo. Our shields were still at 40%. Our point defense should have intercepted it. But the torpedo had approached on a vector that used our own fleet's mass as cover until the last possible second. And when our automated systems finally locked on, it jinked with a maneuver profile that matched our own evasion algorithm so perfectly it was like shooting at a mirror. It struck our primary shield generator. The explosion was catastrophic. Not because the weapon was particularly powerful, but because it hit the precise weak point in our defensive grid where failure would cascade through the entire network. Later, I would learn that the humans had spent 2 weeks analyzing our shield geometry from captured schematics. They had calculated exactly which single point, if destroyed, would create total shield collapse. They had held that torpedo, held it through our initial bombardment, through our superior range advantage, through their own ships dying, waiting for the exact moment when the geometry was perfect. The Pride's shields fell. "All weapons, evasive maneuvers," Dravos roared. But the humans had known we would break formation, had predicted it, had already positioned their remaining ships to cover every logical evasion vector. We dodged into their firing solutions like prey running into nets. The bridge lights flickered. I grabbed my console as the deck shuddered. Casualty reports coming in from across the fleet, someone shouted. 17 ships reporting critical damage, 32 requesting permission to withdraw. Withdraw, fall back, survive. The human chatter continued in my earpiece. Target Delta 7 disabled, moving to Delta 8. Copy. Echo Squadron, new firing solution on your displays. Received, engaging. No fear, no hesitation, no celebration, just work. Rachel had let me listen to the full battle recording during one of our sessions. Every communication from every human ship. 4 hours of transmissions that sounded more like construction workers coordinating a building project than soldiers fighting for their lives. You're listening for something, she had said, watching my reaction. What is it? The moment you became afraid, I admitted. The moment your discipline cracked, when survival instinct overrode your training. She had smiled then, and it was the saddest smile I had ever seen on any species. We were afraid from the moment we detected your fleet. Fear isn't what you think it is. Fear doesn't make us weak. She pulled up biological data, human brain scans, hormone levels, neurological patterns. This is Commander Pierce during the battle. The data showed elevated cortisol, adrenaline, all the markers of acute stress. He was terrified, knew there was 78% probability he would die, wrote goodbye letters to his children before the engagement. The casual revelation shocked me. He has offspring? 3, ages 6, 9, and 12. She zoomed in on a specific pattern in the neural scan. This is his prefrontal cortex, the part that handles rational decision-making, long-term planning. See how it stays active? Dominant even? That's the difference. We feel the fear, we acknowledge it, then we do the job anyway. I had stared at the data, trying to reconcile it with everything we had been taught. Our psychologist said human emotional responses would impair combat effectiveness. Your psychologist studied humans in peacetime. Rachel's expression hardened slightly. Or humans fighting for causes they didn't believe in. We weren't fighting for territory or resources or pride. We were fighting because you bombed farms where children played. The distinction seemed meaningless to me then. The outcome is the same. You fight or you die. No, she leaned back. The outcome is never the same. Soldiers fighting for conquest can be routed, can surrender, can lose morale. Soldiers fighting for survival? She gestured to the data. That's a different kind of human. That's the version that scares you. She was right about that last part. The turning point came when Dravos tried to use our numerical advantage for a concentrated assault on the Resolute. 60 ships, simultaneous firing solution, overwhelming force. The humans couldn't possibly survive it. The Resolute broadcast a single message to its fleet. All vessels. Protocol Shepard. Every human ship immediately changed course, moving to intercept our firing vectors. They spread themselves between us and the Resolute like a living shield, taking hits meant for their flagship. I watched a hospital ship, already damaged and listing, maneuver into the path of our lance fire. They're using hospital ships as shields, our communications officer said in horror. But as the hospital ship burned, its weapons kept firing with the same calm precision as before. No screaming on their channels. No panic, just Resolute Actual, the Adelaide has your 6. Suggest target reallocation to Sector 4. They were dying to protect one ship, not fleeing, not saving themselves, dying, calmly, to buy their flagship time. What kind of species does this? I had whispered. Dravos heard me. The kind that loses wars, he said. But his voice held uncertainty now. The Resolute used the time its fleet bought to launch a full spread of torpedoes. Not at our ships, but at the asteroids behind our formation. The asteroids were debris from the system's formation, mostly iron and ice. The torpedoes detonated, and suddenly we were flying through a cloud of shrapnel, traveling at relativistic velocities. Our sensors went wild. Point defense couldn't distinguish between debris and weapons. Ships started taking damage from simple rocks moving at percentages of light speed. Formation integrity collapsed as vessels maneuvered desperately to avoid the cloud. The humans accelerated into the debris field. Their ships took damage too. Armor plating shredded, hull breaches multiplied. But they knew it was coming, had reinforced their forward sections, had calculated acceptable damage parameters. They emerged from the cloud point blank with our scattered formation. What followed wasn't a battle, it was an execution. I remember Dravos's final order, broadcast to the entire fleet. All ships, scatter formation, individual vessels authorized to negotiate surrender terms. 300 ships fleeing in all directions. The humans didn't pursue, Didn't need to. They had done the math. Calculated exactly how many ships they needed to disable to break our offensive capability. Once they hit that number, they stopped firing and broadcast surrender terms. They stopped because the math said they could. Not because of mercy, not because of exhaustion, because the tactical objective had been achieved. The precision of it was terrifying. Pierce stood in front of my cell now, still holding out that data chip. I took it with trembling fingers. "Why give me this?" I asked again. "Because you need to tell them," he said simply. "Your high command, your war council, whoever makes decisions for your people." He gestured to the data chip. "Tell them what you saw here. Tell them what humans are like when you threaten what we love. They'll call me a coward, say I was broken by captivity. Probably." He turned to leave, then paused. "But you'll know the truth, and maybe that'll be enough to stop them from making the same mistake twice." "What mistake?" I asked. "Underestimating your weapons? Your tactics?" He looked back at me, and in his eyes I saw that terrible calm again. "Underestimating what we're willing to sacrifice. Your people fight until it's no longer profitable, until the cost exceeds the potential gain." He tapped the data pad. "We fight until it's finished. There's no calculation, no cost-benefit analysis. You threaten our homes, our children, our future, and we'll walk through fire to stop you, calmly, methodically, until you're no longer a threat." "That's insane," I whispered. "Maybe," he almost smiled, "but it's effective. 4,218 of us prove that." He left, and I was alone with the data chip and my thoughts. 6 hours later, a Kelvrathi transport arrived. The humans released all 47 of us without ceremony or fanfare. As I boarded the ship, I looked back at the Resolute, still bearing its battle scars, repairs ongoing. A human crew member was welding damaged hull plating, sparks cascading around her in the zero-gravity environment. She worked with the same calm efficiency I had heard in those battle recordings. Not desperate to repair, not frantic, just working, methodically, to restore her ship. She never looked up as we departed. The journey home took 18 cycles. I spent most of it in my quarters, reviewing the data chip, my testimony, but also something else I hadn't expected: human casualty records. Not just numbers, names, biographies. The children Pierce had written goodbye letters to, the family Rachel had waiting on Earth, the dreams, hopes, futures of 4,218 individuals, recorded with the same precision as their kill ratios and tactical decisions. They had given me their dead to carry home. The weight of it was crushing. When we docked at the Kelvrathi home station, I was summoned immediately to high command. The War Council sat in their elevated chambers, dorsal fins extended in their full authority display. "Survivor Seavale," the council leader intoned, "you will provide complete tactical analysis of the defeat at Nexaros." I held up the data chip. "Everything is here. Human capabilities, weapons specifications, tactical doctrine. Summarize the key weakness we can exploit in future engagements." I thought of Pierce's eyes, Rachel's sad smile, the hospital ship burning as it shielded the Resolute, the calm voices coordinating their own deaths like a construction project. "There is no weakness," I said quietly. The chamber erupted. Accusations of cowardice, of broken spirit, of human psychological manipulation, everything Pierce had predicted. But I stood there, holding that data chip, and I told them everything. The torpedoes held in reserve, the calculations, the way they used their own bodies as shields, the absolute absence of surrender in their tactical vocabulary. "They're willing to die," I said, "not as a last resort, not as desperation, as opening strategy. They calculate acceptable losses before the battle begins, and then execute those calculations with perfect calm." "Then we simply need overwhelming force," someone argued. "Numbers they cannot survive." I shook my head. "You're not understanding. The force that defeated us was already overwhelmed. 8-to-1 odds. They knew they would probably die. They came anyway. Brought their wounded in hospital ships so they could watch. Wrote goodbye letters to their children, and then fought with the same emotional control as machines." "Impossible," the council leader declared. "No species can sustain that. Biology doesn't allow it." I pulled up the neural scans Rachel had shown me. Their biology does. Fear doesn't shut them down. It focuses them, makes them sharper, more precise. I met the council leader's eyes. "We evolved on a world with 3 predator species larger than us. We developed pack tactics and defensive positions. Humans? They evolved on a world where they were the weakest, slowest, least dangerous creature. They survived by being persistent, relentless, by refusing to quit even when quitting made sense." The chamber fell silent. "They call it stubbornness," I continued. "They joke about it, make it sound like a character flaw. But it's not. It's their greatest weapon. They will take damage that would make us surrender and keep fighting. They will sacrifice whatever they have to sacrifice and never stop, never falter, never show the fear that's eating them alive inside. I thought of the crew member welding hull plating, never looking up as we departed. The war is over, I said, not because we lost a battle, but because we never understood who we were fighting. We thought they were like us. They're not. They're something else entirely, something that doesn't calculate surrender into its tactical options. The council leader's fins slowly lowered. What do you recommend? I held up the data chip one final time. Never give them a reason to fight us again. I still dream about it sometimes. Not the battle itself, curiously. Not the explosions or the deaths or the defeat. I dream about the voices. Calm, professional, coordinating their own sacrifice like they were reading grocery lists. The terrible mathematics of humans who had accepted death and simply moved on to the question of how to make that death useful. The treaty holds. 3 cycles now without incident. Our intelligence services monitor human space nervously, waiting for signs of expansion, aggression, revenge. But the humans just rebuild. They mourned their 4,218 dead with ceremonies that lasted weeks. They repaired their ships. They went back to their farms and families and ordinary lives. Like the battle had been an interruption, an unpleasant task completed with necessary efficiency. I give lectures now to our military academies, young Kelvrathi officers who think they understand warfare because they've studied tactics and weapons and historical campaigns. I show them the recordings, the neural scans, the casualty lists with their careful biographies. Remember this, I tell them. Remember that somewhere in the galaxy there's a species that loves deeply enough to die calmly, that can look at impossible odds and say acceptable losses with voices that never shake, that will walk into fire not because they're not afraid, but because fear doesn't change what must be done. They listen, they take notes, they try to understand. But I know the truth. You can't understand it until you've seen it, until you've watched a hospital ship burn while it protects a flagship, until you've heard goodbye letters to children turned into tactical priorities, until you've looked into human eyes and seen that terrible, patient calm, the calm of a species that knows exactly how much it can endure and knows that's more than you can.